Hey guys, today we're diving into the LR3. It's got a couple things that I've got to get done on it. First things first, when we had the bad snow, I snapped the fan belt on it. I thought it was just that I was pushing it too hard and snapped the belt, but it turns out the tensioner actually seized up. So I got a new tensioner for it over here. We're going to get that pulled off and check that. But this truck also has a coolant leak that I suspect is a water pump. So I've got a water pump for it. I'm going to pressure test the system real quick and make sure that's what my problem is, and then get that swapped out, throw the other belt on, and then there are two belts on these. One that drives all of the ancillaries on the back, and then the other one on the front that drives the fan clutch and goes over a tensioner. And I think if you have a supercharged 4.2 on the Range Rover Sport or the L322s, I think that front belt also runs over your supercharger up front. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here and get started on this. So I'm at the very bottom of the coolant. This went from leaking to where I had to add coolant like once a month to now it's like once a week. So I really need to get that fixed before it strands me somewhere. So pull off the fan shroud here. This just clicks in there on these. There's no bolts you have to turn or anything like that. So if we look down here, you can see. So I actually ran this some without a belt on it because it was cold. I was just not letting it sit around and idle. Don't do that. But this isn't running the water pump. This is running just an idler here that spins that fan. And then you can see down there, truck's trying to adjust. You can see the idler down there. I don't know if you can tell real well, but it seized up. Yeah, there you go. It's sitting at a little bit of an angle. I didn't realize that at first. I actually kind of thought this was a stretch belt because that's how it is on the LR4, and I've not done this in a while on these, but that's what happened, is that tensioner seized up and belt snapped. So first things first, find where the coolant leak is. I'm using a pressure test kit. What you're going to do is you're going to thread this on where your coolant cap is. I think this is the right adapter. We're going to thread that on, click this thing on, and then pump it up to about 15 or 20 psi. And when this pressurizes the system, wherever that coolant is leaking from, it should start leaking to where we can find it. These tools you can get cheap ones for about $100. I'll see if I can find where this one was and throw a link up here for you. If you guys don't want to buy one of these though, you can rent these from Advance Auto. So I'm just going to let this sit for a few minutes here. That pressure should make it start leaking wherever it is leaking, and we'll be able to find it here in a few minutes, and I'll show you where it is and get stuff swapped out. Just got back from lunch and it is actually leaking on the radiator here. So that's going to be a little more to get changed out, but I'll go ahead and start taking this fan out and get that done today and get the radiator ordered. Okay, so these fans are really a pain to get off here. I've got one of these tools that's supposed to hold on to the bolts in the fan clutch. There's a specific one for Land Rovers that I don't have. The problem with these is that most Land Rovers only have 3 bolts instead of 4, so you're only ever going to get one of the notches on here, and they never really hold real well. So let's see if I can get on this one. This on the LR3, this is reverse thread. I don't know if you're working on a supercharged 4.2, I don't know if it's reverse thread or not. You'll have to check that yourself. Just look at the direction the fan blades go and keep in mind it's going to be opposite of whatever direction the fan's spinning. That way your engine doesn't spin your fan off by accident one day. So let's see if this guy's going to cooperate today. It'd be really nice would be if I could brace this thing against frame or something like that. That's not going to happen. That would be too easy. New place. this is as stuck as I've ever had a fan. So what I did is I worked that bolt back, got a chain on there, wrapped the chain around the frame, put that back on, and then hit it with the air hammer, and finally it broke loose. I was like doubting whether or not I even was right about this thing being reverse thread. So now that I've got that off there, I'll go ahead and spin this thing off, get the tensioner pulled out, and get this swapped. There's a plug on these fans. And of course, this thing is really stuck on there too. There it goes. See, there's no chance I'm not going to break something on this today. So you can just lift this thing out of here, and then we'll spin the fan off. Man, it's still sticking. I broke my good Land Rover wrench. Put too much torque on it and spread the mouth out so much that now it's not a 36 millimeter, it's probably about a 40 millimeter. So I had to go get my cheap Chinese one here, but the air wrench, or the air hammer is what actually broke it loose. I would have broken this thing probably.
Now this one, you know, it might be that this fan's never been off of this thing. I don't know. But like I said, this is a 250,000 mile truck. These things do stick on here, but I've never had one that stuck. Usually that locking tool and then an air hammer gets it off pretty easily.
There it goes. All right, so here's a better look at what I had to do. So I just ran that 10 millimeter bolt through that, hooked that chain around the frame horn down there, and that got it loose. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back off because I really don't want to forget that that thing was on there later. And then I'll go ahead and get this tensioner swapped out. Okay, now everything's out of the way. This is a 13 millimeter. So if you guys are trying to do the back belt, this tensioner and the fan pulley have to come off anyway. There's a lot of parts that just fell out of that. Yeah, that broke. Okay, so here you can see that just goes to the fan clutch and then the tensioner on the LR3. That'll be the same on the naturally aspirated Range Rover and Range Rover Sports. I'm going to go ahead and throw the fan back on with some Never Sees. Since I'm going to have to do the radiator, I'm just going to do the other belt and stuff like that later on when I've got that out. So I think that's going to be it for today. All right, just make sure, oh, there you are. It's the one that's obviously not tight. Make sure that I've got this thing tight because now I can use the tension of the belt, tighten it down. Throw some Never Sees on it because this fan is going to have to come back off in the near future and I don't want to have to do this all over again. So this plug here just lifts out when it comes out with the fan and then clicks back in there, and then that right there with the red wire on it plugs back into that once everything's installed. There we go. Look at that. Went back on real easy. I'll always do that and then just give it a real slight thump to make sure that it's not going to fall off there. Because now the rotation of the pulley is going to keep that thing tightened up. So throw the shroud back on here. There's that. And shroud back in. And I'm going to top my coolant up because I blew quite a bit out testing that. And that's going to be it until I can get a radiator in here. So for today, I only did that front belt that snapped. I'm going to have to pull that radiator out and replace it pretty soon, and that's going to give me a lot more room to work on that rear belt. So I'll just do that rear belt and check all of the auxiliary stuff on the engine when I do that. This ended up taking way longer than it was supposed to. Kind of figured I'd be out here 15 minutes, and it's been about 45 minutes now trying to get that stupid fan loose. So I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you.